May 1985, Grant and I had been married for almost 10 years. And although we had all the trials and tribulations of any young couple starting a family, we had never encountered sadness, real sadness, before. I remember the numbness that came over me when they told me that my 7-year-old was going to die. Have you ever heard of the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, Chris? Dr. Glatter asked. Acquired immune deficiency. I repeated the words to myself. AIDS. He was talking about AIDS. Do you mean that Ben has AIDS? Ben had been exposed to the blood of more than 48,000 people a year since he had been born, and one of them had AIDS. We had no choice but to depend on all those donors just to keep our son alive, and now one of them had handed him a death sentence. Chris, do you understand the significance of what we're telling you? Yes, I said. I understood. AIDS was fatal. My son was going to die. Death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes, but we keep living anyway. This quote from Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda exemplifies the unbiased world in which we live in, where death doesn't discriminate, neither does grief. As Miranda states, you hold your child as tight as you can, and you push away the unimaginable. But even when facing the loss of a child, a loss that defies nature itself because children are not supposed to die before their parents, we can choose to go towards the light, like Chris Ollier. Can you tell me how long my son has? All we know is that statistically, 85% of AIDS patients are dead within a year. I'm sorry, we can't tell you more of what to expect, but Ben's our first. He's my first too. My first son. I thanked them and accepted their offer to talk to us in more detail once Grant had arrived. I needed to touch Ben, to feel the warmth of his breath, to hear his voice call me Mom, to see the weight of his body pressing against the bed. It was an urge much like that I'd felt at his birth, to touch him, examine him, and reassure myself that he was alive and whole. Hi, Mom, Ben said. When I walked into the room, he was in bed watching cartoons. Of course he was watching cartoons. It's 3 o'clock. Ben always watches cartoons at 3 o'clock. Oh, Ben, why did it have to be you? And then I remember that conversation Grant and I had on the golf course before we were married. That one about losing a child. How I knew I could never bear for one of my children to die. I would go insane and I'd rather die myself. And now it was happening to me. My worst nightmare. Okay, Ben, you can get dressed and go home now, the nurse said cheerfully as she took out the IV. All right, Ben shouted, sliding down off the bed. It was a beautiful early summer afternoon, so we decided to take our favorite route home through the redwoods. It was a 2-hour drive back, but there was no reason to hurry. Ben lay in the back of the van in the bed that we had made him. After a few minutes, he asked to come up and sit on my lap, before I would have told him no, that it was too dangerous. But too dangerous seemed ludicrous now. What's wrong with me? What did the doctor say? Well, then we should have known that Dr. Penn was right about that parasite. They found one in your stomach. That's why your tummy hurts so much and why you've got all this diarrhea. And the white cakey stuff in your mouth is something that they call thrush. And the reason you're having such a hard time getting rid of all of this is because you've got something else too. It's called AIDS. It's a little scary because the doctors don't know much about it yet. You're the very first little boy they've seen that's had it, Benny. When do they say I'm gonna get better? They're not sure, Ben, Grant said. The doctors gave us some medicine that's gonna make you feel better. Some pills and more of that delicious yellow throat spray you love so much. Do you think you can handle that if it'll make you feel better? Ben made a face and clutched his throat the way little boys always do when they're pretending to be poison monsters from those late-night horror movies. If I have to, but I don't understand what I did to get this. Everyone else drank the same water I did, so how come I'm the only one that's sick? Well, Ben, it's kind of complicated. You didn't get AIDS from the water, you got it from factor VIII. It's a virus, and somebody who donated the blood that they used to make the factor had the virus too. Why don't we talk more about it after you've had a little time to rest up at home, okay? Why don't we think of something fun to do, just you and me and Mom? Like what? Why don't we make a list? Let's make a list of things to look forward to. If you had your choice of doing anything you wanted to this summer, what would it be? Disneyland! Remember, Mom, you said we could go to Disneyland for my birthday when I turned 8. Remember? What else, Ben? Making new friends when school starts in September. You might be in a new school, Ben, Grant said. Does that mean I can't see Jessica anymore? Of course not, Ben. You don't have to lose friends just because you go to a different school. Yeah, I guess not. Can we call her when we get home, Mom? I'd really like to see her. I nodded, but something made me hesitate about putting Jessica's name on the list. Ben took the pen out of my hand and wrote her name under new house and new school. Ben looked at my growing list. Something's missing. My baby brother. You mean Chelsea, I corrected. Ben gave me a wide smile. He and I knew this dialogue like a familiar storybook. Mom, please, just one more boy. Please, I really want another baby brother. Just one more, and then you can have Chelsea, okay? That a deal? Let's just wait and see what we get. Ben looked a little dubious, but he agreed. I wrote baby at the bottom of our list, and I put my notebook away. I felt as though we had accomplished something. I was at the grocery store later that day when I bumped into Ben's bus driver, who told me that Jessica had died. The first thought that had crossed my mind was that I had let Ben down. I hadn't called Mrs. West since we had returned, and now it was too late. What would Ben say? How would he handle this now? Jessica was a very special friend to Ben. Jessica, the girl with no hair, had explained to him that her head hadn't always been like that. It's just that since they had found tumors in her brain and started chemotherapy, that her hair had fallen out. I decided to take the boys to the park the next day. I have to talk to you about Jessica, Ben, I said. He looked up at me quickly, and then looked down and started doodling in the sand with his finger. It's not good news, is it? You know, Mom, I really love Jessica. She was my best friend. There was nobody else that understood me like Jessica did, not even the boys. I'm really gonna miss her. Why did I have to lose her so fast, Mom? She wasn't even my age. You never have to lose somebody that you really love, Ben. Will Jessica go to heaven? Yes. Will I see her again someday? I'm sure you will, Ben. There was a long silence. Ben just kept looking down and drawing in the sand. When will that be, Mom? I don't know, Ben. Nobody knows when they're gonna die. That's why it's so important to love each other while we're together. I kept my eyes wide open so that tears wouldn't fall out. Why did I have the feeling that Ben knew he was going to die? That despite our careful words and assurances that he had understood it all, that he wanted to talk to me, but he was too afraid to. I just wanted to hold him tight and rock him back and forth in my arms and cry over the years that we might not have together. But I couldn't, because I was too afraid of scaring him. So we sat there, Ben with his thoughts and me with mine. Mom, will you push me on the swing for a while? Sure, Ben. There was a peaceful quality about our times together. The noise was gone now, and when I stopped being afraid, it went away, and in its place was a quiet grief, sad but peaceful.